Greetings comic lovers, and today we're doing something a little different. A review of an original graphic novel. One that is a joint project between Heavy Metal and Herø Projects. These two companies are teaming up to produce a line of original science fiction graphic novels set to come out starting in 2022 and through 2023. And if you've been here a while, you know sci-fi is my jam. They reached out and asked if I was interested in reviewing one of their latest projects, a book called The Fifth Force. And after reading it, there was a fair bit that I wanted to talk about. So I'm pleased to be partnering with them to bring you a review of Fifth Force. The struggle is real for me. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, the mileage may vary points, all of the work. This will be a largely spoiler-free review, but there are some things that are going to sneak through in terms of the broad details. So if you don't want to know anything except for the base concepts, I'll go over those now and then you can dip out. The book is available for purchase through Amazon and retails at around $20. One of the core things to get out there is that this book centers on two themes: time travel and climate change. I know, I can feel your butts clenching. Mine did too at first. Both of those can either be excitement factors or big detractors. And together, it can be a doozy. Do they go together like chocolate and peanut butter, or like two things that you don't feel go together? Because anything I list, there's gonna be at least one person who's like, I love that combination, it's perfect. This book was written by Matthew Medney and Morgan Rosenblum. Medney is the CEO of both Herø Projects and Heavy Metal, while Rosenblum is Chief Creative Officer of Herø Projects and a Managing Editor of Heavy Metal, with art by Adriano Vincente. Colors for the first 5 chapters by Tiago Ribeiro, and for chapter 6, William Soares and Flavio Silva. Had I not known that there were different colorists, I wouldn't have noticed, so it remains consistent. So what is this book actually about? Well, it's about 3 and later 4 time jumpers, or time inflectors as they call themselves, as they're going through history looking for what they call inflection points. Points where they can institute some kind of change that's going to alter their future. They're doing this because they need to stop an extinction level event caused by climate change. I know for some that's already a route, but bear with me. Our 3 leads are Malik, Martina or Marty, and Tess. And I'll be honest with you, at first I was really concerned I was about to be gullied or downsized or so many other things. Basically, the environmental messes genre, for it is a genre in fiction, can get pretty preachy at points. Sometimes it's of the after-school variety special, and sometimes it goes far beyond. It is an art to be able to get a message out and still be entertaining, but it is possible. So does this work do it? Let's talk about it. Now, at first, my concern increased when I saw their first jump point, which is to a favorite place in the time travel genre. It's what I've dubbed Kennedy-sploitation. Yes, we're going back to the time of JFK, just a little bit before his assassination. If you hear about a movie, a book, a comic, anything, and you know the heroes are going back to stop some kind of cataclysmic event and the authors are American, you can place your money and be pretty secure in your bet that it's probably going to involve Kennedy at some point. You have strong odds at least. You gotta weigh that and stopping Hitler. This could be some kind of board game. Where are we going? And it's just time travel options. Dinosaurs would also be on there as well. Just name some of the common time travel points that you always see. But it was at this point that this work surprised me. It did not take the obvious route and instead proceeded to muse about the nature of time travel and time. Not in a pedantic scientific way, but in an observation and acknowledgement of the unpredictability of history, and the fact that altering only one event would be unpredictable, as would be the effect that letting a person know that you are from the future would have on them. Would they believe you? Would that knowledge stay with them? Would it stay as fresh and strong? Would they eventually think that it was a dream, a hallucination? So many questions. Would the mere fact of revealing that information be what undid the change you were trying to do? There is that acknowledgement of the fact that history is complicated and interconnected, especially when you're looking at it from people coming from a future point where not all their information may be accurate, or the connections they've made based on their perspectives may not line up with exactly how events unfold. And as a result, they don't shake out exactly the way they think. So some tiny spoilers are going to be here, just a little bit, smidge, teeny tiny. The first run is a failure, not in a cataclysmic we all have ant heads kind of way, but in a nothing really changed one way or the other kind of way. Other events arose to take the place of the ones that they stopped, if they even stopped anything. And so you see they're basically throwing darts at a board, looking at times that they've decided are the most significant and going there, so then they also have their own biases as to which locations would be important and when to go there as well to contend with. So then you have to ask the question, these periods seem very significant to our travelers, but are they actually going to be in the longer flow through time? And it's during their second jump, which at first is seemingly successful, that things get really interesting. And the book gets a bit more complex about the issues it's discussing, pulling itself away from being a lecture and instead being a story. That is for the majority of it. Alas, at the very end of the climax, it falls back into that bit of after-school special mode. But before it does that, it asks some very interesting questions about human nature, the price of interfering, and even even little questions like what it's like to come back and constantly meet slightly tweaked versions of the people you knew. Because they're always coming back, even if the changes are slight, to slightly different versions of the people that they knew. It would have been nice actually to deal with that a bit more, so you could feel the bond between the team a bit more, since they're really the only ones who have been through what they've been through, and you spend most of the time of the book with them. And sometimes the timelines that they come from make it hard to relate to other people. They do try and play on the different values that the people in the time periods they visit have, which is appreciated, but it's not entirely clear what their values are by contrast, aside from save the planet. So let's break this down even a little further. For setting, we don't get to see much of the ruined Earth. For the most part, we're effectively kept inside the bunker, and then we do see some nature as they jump. So you don't have the clearest picture, you have to fill it in for the most part yourself. They do occasionally show glimpses of some of their history and what has happened, and that does lead to one of the more humorous moments in the book, even though I'm not sure if it's meant to be humorous, where they're showing the fallen landmarks, but they're all posing against them very happily, like distasteful Instagram story timers or something. Here I am in front of the ruins of the Sphinx, just the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. I took it as being intended as humorous, because this book does have some time travel jokes in there. It's a bit tongue-in-cheek at points. Now this work is 156 pages, with the story itself concluding on page 139. It's fairly paced for the time it has and doesn't feel like it's rushing. Despite this, the conclusion just suddenly comes upon you, because the way the story is structured, it could very much have kept going, but at some point it just needs to end. No matter where it had stopped, it would have had that kind of sense of, oh well, we could have kept going if we wanted to. And that would not have been unwelcome, because there were other things left to explore. Now as for the characters, they fall more on the archetypal side than on the very deep nuance side. As it goes on, you do start to learn more and more about them, which is why I said that it wouldn't have been unwelcome for the book to be a bit longer. We have Tess, the rookie. She's softer and haunted by the crisis. It's caused her a lot of pain, so when she jumps to certain locations, she has a lot of fun. Just experiencing the comparative freedom of it and noticing those differences and reveling a bit in just how much she can do there. Now this can lead her to make more reckless decisions, and those can have some either very positive or negative impacts on what happens. Marty is the no-nonsense hothead. She's rude with toot, and she gets stuff done even if she has to break the rules a little. She's very brass and to the point of being abrasive, which I think was meant to be charming, but for me it made her my least favorite one. She's just so mean at points, like to Marilyn Monroe for no reason, and then she takes her hairbrush and brings it back for some guy that she's sleeping with as a souvenir. There's just so much irreverence there, and also questions about whether that would mess anything up. I would take nothing. Our last member is Malik, and he's the most stoic of the bunch, which unfortunately can also at times tend towards him being the most bland. He's Mr. Mission, and he needs to get it done. He's the one who tends to present the various pitches to people when it comes to their climate change and clean energy plans, so as a result, he can also be the most lectury of the group. And sometimes if he's delivering one of his speeches, it can come across like he's saying it like he's talking to a bunch of kindergartners. Except for the one time with JFK, there he gets to be sassy. It would have been nice to see more sassy Malik. He was hiding and lurking inside there. The Malik who was like, there's not enough time. Yes, that was a time pun. Speaking of time, this is where the book shines. This book is not convoluted, and it really could have been. It lays out its rules and it sticks to them. In the urgency sense, it pulls a bit of a swap midway that alters the tone a little bit. But they made it work in that they add a new sense of urgency. So it's not just that the urgency is suddenly gone, it's that it shifts. But the meditations on time and the subtle ways it changes the people around them and challenges their preconceived notions about which decisions would be good and which would be bad are the most interesting parts of the story. They're also where you can find a lot of the humor. Now, to the story's credit, it doesn't constantly go around lecturing you with humans bad and they're destroying the earth, which again, it could have. There is a story here, and at times those other elements will take a back seat to all of the other adventure beats that are happening. Now, on the time travel front, this work is fairly nuanced, and it works in its explanations for how things are going very smoothly, like its explanations for paradoxes and how they're avoiding them. So for the most part, it doesn't feel like anything should be exploding if people run into each other, or that things should cancel each other out, or it doesn't feel unrealistic that they show up and their base is still there. Although it is just always a fun thought experiment with time travel in general to see how far you can really go with it, because lots of times people stick within certain confines, because when you think about it, the one constant of time is change. So you could do a lot with coming back and having one's very base assumptions completely challenged. A complete shift in the balances of power. There's just new world powers, for example, and now your base and all of your resources gone. How would you fix that? You don't. That was one jump and it's over. One likes to imagine that the structures one knew would hold on in some way, but that may not be the case, because balances of power shift and change, and making the changes they're making, one couldn't exactly predict all the trickle-down effects. You would have to have just intimate encyclopedic knowledge of everything all around the world, and have an understanding of exactly how everybody would react to every situation, and that's just not possible. I'm getting getting excited about how far you can take time travel stories. That's why I enjoy reading these. I have this love-hate relationship with time travel in that I find it very, very interesting, but at the same time I've been hurt before, so it can be frustrating. Now, for all the fun the authors are having with the time travel aspect, they even talk about in the back of the book and where some of their inspirations came from, like Contact and Star Trek. The climate change and clean energy discussion is decidedly more one note. While there are some surprising outcomes, they come more from the ripples in the time stream and not because any of the things that they are championing or the solutions that they are putting forth don't actually work. Those are always presented as 100% the right ones with no consequences, so there's not really any kind of discussion or nuance there. So for some, this element may push the book more into the after-school special arena of things, because you don't have those counterpoints ever discussed or even brought up. Even when they're at conferences, which would be a perfect opportunity to, even if the authors do not agree with those points, to at least put them out there. Acknowledging any kind of potential drawbacks, such as power shortages, potential famines, the harm done to new animals and ecosystems because of shifts. For they talk about how there are powers at play to keep the status quo, but there would also be and are new powers that are invested in this change, financing it, looking to capitalize, finding their own interests, which are not always the earth. There are also people who use it as a buzzword, some intentionally, some unintentionally. This to elicit emotional response and hopefully prompt change in that way. Or to sell you beauty products or other things. It's complicated, and that would have been interesting because you don't see those counterpoints in works like this very often. But given the base concept, it's not surprising that those things aren't brought up. Now, some will massively disagree and feel that no other points need to be brought up or that all the solutions presented in this book are 100% correct. Nothing else needs to be discussed. Even bringing it up is in some way problematic. It's a good thing I don't own any classical art pieces because people are coming to my house now with soup, or they can maybe pour out all my milk. Now they're also coming because I made that joke. For me, the more nuanced a work gets and the more avenues it has to explore, the more exciting it is. Because in a narrative space, you have so much room to play, and that's where the fun is. To me at least, mileage varies. On the whole, this work was a pleasant surprise with some very solid moments. Some laughs and some interesting takes on time travel, including going so far as to ask, is time travel even the solution? I'm glad I read it, and if it sounds like it's up your alley, the book is available for purchase through Amazon, and I'll of course have a link down below. It averages at around $20. They also have other projects out or on the way. One such is Remnant, which is a neo-noir sci-fi work set in 2449. 2449? That sounds better. I'm a sucker for that blend. It's small, but there are some gems there. If you do get it, hit me up. I need people to talk about Marty with. I have so many thoughts and feelings that I didn't touch upon because I didn't want to get too spoilery. This book has definitely made its way into my time travel Rolodex. If for nothing else, then it's now on the list of stories that take you back to the time of Kennedy. It's useless information that I'm holding on to, hoping that someday maybe it'll be relevant. It probably won't. I'll die and it'll just be in there. So now I want to hear from you. Have you read this work, and if so, what do you think? Does it sound like it's a work for you? Are you a fan of time travel? Share your thoughts down below. While you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time today to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.